By and by, when we got up, we turned over the truck the gang had stole off the wreck, and we found all sorts of things. We laid off all the afternoons in the woods talking and me reading the books, having a general good time. I told Jim about what happened inside the wreck and at the ferry boat, and I said these kinds of things was adventures, but he said he didn't want to go on no more adventures. If he didn't get saved, he would get drowned, and if he didn't get saved, whoever saved him would send him back home so as to get the reward, and then Miss Watson would sell himself. I read considerable to Jim about kings and dukes and earls and how gaudy they dressed and how much style they put on, and called each other your majesty and your grace and your lordship and so on instead of mister, and Jim's eyes bugged out.
I hain't heard about none of 'em, Scasely, but old King Solomon. How much do a king get?
Why, they get $1,000 a month if they want it. They can have just as much as they want. Everything belongs to them.
And what they got to do, Huck?
They don't do nothing. They just sit around, except maybe when there's a war. Then they go to war. But other times, they just lazy around. Or go hawking. You hear a noise? We skipped out and looked, but it warn't nothing but the flutter of a steamboat's wheel away and down, coming around the point, so we come back. Yes, and other times, when things is dull, they fuss around with the parliament, and if everyone don't go, just so he whacks their heads off. But mostly they hang around the harem.
Round the which? What's the harem?
Harem, the place where he keeps his wives. Don't you know about the harem? Solomon had one. He had about 1,000,000 wives.
Why, yes, that's so. I done forgot it. A harem's a boarding house, I reckon. Most likely they has ragged times in the nursery, and I reckon the wives quarrels considerable. Yet they say Solomon the wisest man that ever lived. I don't take no stock in that. Because why? Why would a wise man want to live in the midst of such a big blabbling all the time?
Well, but he was the wisest man, because the widow, she told me so.
I don't care what the widder say. He warn't no wise man nother. He had some of the dad-fetchedest ways I ever see. Does you know about that child that who's gonna chop in two?
Yes, the widow told me all about it.
Well then, worn at the beatin'est notion in the world, you just take and look at it a minute. That's the stump. That's one of the women. Here's you. That's the other one. I Solomon, and this your dollar bill's the child. Both you one claims it. What does I do? Does I shine around amongst the neighborhood and find out which one the bill do belong to, and hand it over to the right one, all safe and sound, the way that anybody that had a gumption would? No, I'd take the bill and whack it in two, and give half unto you and the other half unto the woman. That's the way Solomon was going to do with the child. Now I want to ask you, what does he use that other half to build? You can't buy nothing with it. And what does that half of the child? You won't give a darn for 1,000,000 of them.
Created using Powtoon.